Hello everyone, and welcome back to another race for the Misfits Racing League. It is, of course, Tier 1 action, Round 16. It's the Mexican Grand Prix for Round 16 here. And man, I am excited after what was an excellent show of racing there in Tier 2. A lot of wheel-to-wheel action here in the Autodromo Hermanos Rodriguez in Mexico City today. And we are looking forward to some more here for Tier 1. Of course, joining me today, as usual, is Mikau. How are you doing today, Mikau?
I'm doing fantastic as always, Striff. I'm really looking forward as we are drawing near to the end of the season. Of course, this being the penultimate round before we finish things off next week in Suzuka, Japan. I'm hoping these guys can give us a good show today.
For sure. You can see there the circuit on screen. Mexico has a very interesting circuit. A couple of very long DRS zones there, and it's just a very unique circuit. It can be very harsh on penalizations as well, as we all know, and as we all saw in Tier 2 earlier. You can see there the calendar for the second leg of the season. We started things here all the way in Abu Dhabi for round 1. Now we are here for the penultimate round, number 16, here for the Mexican Grand Prix. Next week, of course, we're going to be going to Suzuka. It's going to be quite a finale to what's been a very good, very exciting wheel-to-wheel action-based season. And let's take a look at the teams that are going to be kicking off on the grid today. As per usual, Mr. Zamayo over at Ferrari with Rackety, his teammate, lining up next to him. Skybits and Shenjie over at Haas, Falcon 9 and Luktra at Renault, Fubar and Custom for Mercedes, Zamis and Undertaker F for Alfa Romeo, Bois and Jasko over at Red Bull, Astrodite and Henry for Williams, Yoda and Jean at McLaren, BTFU and Alex Bitto for Toro Rosso, and Bear Gaming and Tupaka round off the grid for Racing Point. I just want to make an official announcement. It has been confirmed, and it was confirmed last race, but of course we were just finalizing some details. Zamayo, if you were unaware, is our World Driver Champion here for Season 2 for Tier 1, having won the race by a not the race, but the standings by a monumental lead. You can see here on screen now. After Australia, he has racked up 284 points this season, Mikau. An absolutely dominating season for the Ferrari driver. Yoda in second, 155 points, looking to try and clinch that today. Of course, Shenjie, BTFU, in striking distance as well, given how the next couple of races go. Zamis there in 5th, Falcon in 6th. The standings is still very tight in this battle for the final couple of positions here, especially for that 3rd position. A couple of major hauls of points today or in Suzuka next week can definitely change things up. And if you look from 20th, you can literally count back 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, all the way up into 15th position. There's a very tight battle going on back there. And if you were unaware, any of these drivers that finish out with good standings and points will have a more than likely their pick of car come next season in the new game, F1 2020. We're going to take a look at the constructor standings, of course. Ferrari, with Zamayo putting up such a large tally of points. 342 points for the Scuderia, as McLaren is in behind them with 184 in second position. But that's not it for McLaren being in second. Haas isn't too far behind, neither is Toro Rosso or Red Bull. Williams a little bit further back, Alfa Romeo there in 7th, Renault in 8th, Mercedes in 9th, with Racing Point at the back in 10th with 60 points, 19 points away from 9th position, looking to try and get out of there. Mercedes has been near the back for the majority of this season. Hopefully they can have a breakout race here for Fubar and Custom. And I do believe we are going to be getting back into this race, or getting into the racing action in just a few moments' time, as I'm going to switch things back on over to the F1 game client. I do believe we're just waiting on a driver or two to jump in here.
Yeah, even though the drivers and constructors titles have been firmly sealed away, thanks to the insane efforts put in by Zamayo over the course of the season, But aside from that, the rest of the positions are anyone's game, both in the drivers and the constructors. As you said earlier, Yoda looking to clinch that P2 today, and he can do that with a solid result. But don't discount that charging pack, from third below, and even towards the tail end of the standings is still very, very tight there. So there's
For sure.
battles happening all across the grid, and as you said before, Struffium, there is still something to fight for, even down in 15th place, to get maybe, just maybe, a better car selection for the next season, but that is still yet to be determined.
For sure, for sure. And I know Yoda there in second position. Somebody must have given him a jolt this week, as he's been on the game quite more than we've seen in the past recent weeks. Perhaps Australia kicked him into high gear there, as I'm sure he didn't get the finish he wanted, and he's not had the best second half of the season. A very dominating performance in Russia, of course, the one to note, as he came from the back of the grid to win that one. But of course, as these drivers are readying up, I just want to share with you all some fantastic news. June 27th, we are going to be having a league versus league exhibition race. It's all for fun. It's all to kind of see how our league and the DMR, that's the Delta Motor Racing League, square off head-to-head in some 10 versus 10 on-circuit action. It's going to be the Canadian Grand Prix for that one, and we're going to be giving away here on the Misfits Twitch page a fantastic copy of Formula 1 2020 Michael Schumacher Edition. So if you haven't already followed the channel, I highly suggest you do so that you don't miss the action. That's going to be Saturday, June 27th. Of course, that will be a week or so after we wrap things up here next week for Suzuka for round 17, and I'm definitely looking forward to that. I haven't got a clue who's going to be driving in it yet, Mikal, but I know that there are some very, very fast people that will be present for sure, as we're just waiting on things to get going in the lobby now.
Yeah, it shouldn't be too much longer of a wait. I do believe we're just waiting on one of the drivers who's having a few connection issues. So we'll be underway shortly, but I'm really interested to see how these drivers handle around the Mexico City circuit, because it gives you a really good mix of high-speed corners, low-speed technical sections. Of course, you can pass down that very, very long main straight, and also the run down to turn 4 at the end of sector 1. So you can definitely overtake here, which is reassuring, at least for us, and hopefully for the drivers as well. Should they qualify a bit out of position, but as you said earlier, the track limits can be absolutely brutal. So while it is high speed and very technical, in some areas these drivers will also have to watch those white lines in order to not get penalties in case of a late safety car. But we are coming into the start of qualifying Striffium. Just waiting for all these drivers to ready up and select their tire presets.
One interesting thing to talk about that we saw there earlier today in Tier 2 was that there was a massive amount of penalties handed out as a result of, like you said, the Mexican circuit and just how things are here. But not as many position changes coming down to the final 10 that I thought I would see as a result of those penalties. Of course, one that was very important to watch near the end of that race was Kai Bacchini against Nigel in that battle for the race win, whereas Kai Bacchini, I do believe, had accumulated almost 9 seconds in penalties leading up to the finish of that race. Nigel, I think it was around lap 32, lap 33, was within that 9 seconds, but Kai Bacchini doing a fantastic job of pushing ahead, getting out in front, and building himself a gap, a cushion, if you will, to take home that race win for Tier 2. But of course, enough about Tier 2. We're in here for an entirely new session. Something that we didn't see earlier today was a dry qualifying session, Mikal. And it'll be very interesting to see how these drivers go for tire strategies here. There's a couple of different viable options. Of course, safety car, the potential to screw everything up once strategy comes. Once those cars come out, strategy pretty well goes out the window and leaves those drivers to make some split-second decisions for sure. It's going to be a racing point of Icy, who is a reserve today, making his way out of the pit lane, first to go out on those medium compound tires, and he'll be looking to set the first lap of the session.
Yep, and Stevo retires in the pits, so it looks like he will be wanting to start from the back. But yeah, I'm sure these drivers are really thankful that it's a dry qualifying session after seeing, you know, the tier 2 drivers have to navigate their way in the damp conditions, as Zamayo has also retired from the session, so I think he'll be starting from the back as well. So that'll be very, very interesting to keep an eye on.
I hope he
So who will
doesn't
get pole?
overtake everybody into the first turn. I hope he doesn't overtake everybody into the first turn. That's all I'm going to say. I mean, the carry of speed that you can get down into turn 1 here off the race start, if you get a good jolt off the line, it can be huge, huge for track position here.
I'm just looking at ICs as he starts his flying lap on those yellow stripe medium compound tires. So let's see what the opening time. We'll see the opening time that he can set into turn 1. Seems to get that apex fairly well, using all that curb at the exit of, well, the entry, sorry, at turn 3. DRS open. So he makes his way down the second DRS zone into the sector 1 split. Into turn 4. Now the quick flick to the right for turn 5. Using all the track available. You can see the middle of the car all the way over on that ripple strip, and that's how hard you need to push the track limits in order to be fast around here. Now going to the very fast technical section, the S's, using all that curb, and he's used a bit too much of it, and he's spun around in the S's. So that'll be an abandoned lap for the Racing Point.
Very unfortunate for him. Hopefully he's able to get things back on in a safe manner there. I believe that's the Toro Rosso of Alex Bitto, narrowly avoiding him there. As I was just going to say, I thought that there was a Toro Rosso relatively close behind him. I don't know what kind of role that's going to play on Alex's lap, but we are going to follow on board with him as he finishes through the stadium section now, rounding the final corner. What kind of time is he able to put up?
Hopefully that scare didn't put him off too much. It will be a 15-1 as the first lap on the board. So that'll be the time to beat for these drivers so far.
Custom now crossing the line. What's it going to be for the Mercedes? It's a 1:15.660 for him. Custom, who joined us yesterday evening in a race for the PPR Esports for the United States Grand Prix. Unfortunately, not having the result he would have liked as an American driver there, but hopefully on for a better finish today here in MRL, Mikhail.
Yeah, Zamus goes provisional pole. Sorry to cut you off there, but Zamus going provisional pole with a 115.111, so 600ths ahead of Alex Bitto. Jean coming across the line as well, recorded 15.4 as Bois smashes that 15-second barrier into the 114s that we go with a 114.9. Some very, very quick times being posted already.
Yoda on a flyer, somebody that we are looking to see have a very good qualifying here today, as we've seen him practicing a lot lately. Looking to show that he is worthy, not necessarily worthy per se, but you know, these past few races we really haven't seen him in second position form as far as the standings are concerned, and hopefully today we are here to see an entirely different driver. But unfortunately, you can see there he's invalidated the lap through the very tight S's section here, Mikhail, and you hate to see it.
Yeah, it is really, really unfortunate as Lutra goes even faster than the Red Bull of Bois, taking that provisional pole, pushing that time down to 114.600. So a whole 3/10 faster than the Red Bull driver. And yeah, trying to get that speed through the S's is just so difficult. You have to thread the car almost perfectly to keep that speed up, but not go off the track and throw away all that hard work you did in Sector 1 and that first technical in Sector 2.
Yeah, meanwhile, King had set a 116.1 there in the Racing Point. We saw him do as he crossed line, now off onto the side of the circuit, allowing fast movers to move on by. BTFU in the Toro Rosso setting a 116.4 on the hard compound tires. Looks like he's just getting things warmed up now, as he is on what looks to be an in lap. as we have yellow flags popping up all over through the circuit, which is something that we will see quite frequently here in Mexico as a result of those track limits. Rackety in the Ferrari on an invalidated lap right now. I'm sure we'll see him jump back into the pit lane in a few moments. Jasko out on the mediums. He set a 118.1 on those as he's rounding the final few corners now, and he's going to make his way into the pit lane. Shenjay, that 114.3 scoring him pole position. He's still cooking things through the S's section here. Full battery output for the Haas driver as he makes his way through into stadium section. Not 100% on whether or not he'll finish this lap. You can see there the gas light is on, so it's possible we could see him come into the pits here. It's very hard to tell considering most of these drivers running very low fuel load in order to get the best performance out of the car there.
I'm just looking at Astroguide as he making his way into Sector 1. Zamis getting out of the way nicely there. Got a big lock-up heading into turn number 6. That doesn't seem to have cost him too much. You can just see, you know, how tentative he's moving that steering wheel, trying to use all the track available to him, but also trying not to lose the car underneath. And I do believe he has cut the last bit of that S section, so he'll have to try again. Still plenty of time, though, in this session. Just over 10 minutes remaining.
Getting confirmation from the Scuderia garage as Mayo retired the car very early in the session. I now have confirmation that it was, in fact, an ERS issue, causing them to forfeit the qualification. Of course, they're going to have that settled and ready to go ahead of this race. The Ferrari with great speed here in Mexico through that long Sector 1. I'm sure we'll see him do very well here in the race given that ERS situation gets sorted properly.
I'm just trying to see who's out on a lap at the moment. Looks like both Blah and Zamis have just started their laps, making their way through Sector 1. It looks like Henry's boarded his lap as Raggy Jr. comes across the line and takes P2. So we'll line up provisionally with Chenjay on that front row of the grid with a 114.375. So less than a tenth separating the top two at the moment.
The Renault squad looking quite good up there in 2-3 respectively, as Zamis currently about to make his way into the stadium section has invalidated his lap on the exit of the S's. Very unfortunate for the Alpha driver as he is currently in 5th with that 115.1. And he is going to try and get back into the pit lane as quick as he can, perhaps for another lap, and there he goes. So you were mentioning Bois on a flyer coming out behind him. He has also invalidated his lap. He is going to keep going though, as it looks like he may have had enough fuel in the car. And I changed my mind as he is not going to be jumping that battery up into overtake here on the straight. So he is going to come in for another lap, perhaps staying out just to get a better feel for the circuit. King in the Racing Point now, currently in 11th with that 116.181, which he set on the medium compound tires, is now onto the soft compound tires, looking to set another lap as he makes his way through the S's.
Yeah, you can just see how much curb the Racing Point is using, and that's the amount of curb that you have to use in order to get that optimal line through that S section, as he is 9/10 up on his medium time, heading into the technical stadium section. Let's see what the Racing Point driver is able to do to make his way around the final corner. See him short shifting to try and get that traction down, and it will be P5 at the moment for the Racing Point, 115.007.
See there, he's just jumped ahead of Zamis in time, as he is currently 4/1000ths of a second quicker than the Alfa Romeo, as Zamis is now getting ready to go on an out lap, as we saw him invalidate just a few moments ago. A lot of drivers currently out on circuit on various laps, in laps, and Flyers to boot, as only a couple of drivers are on confirmed outlaps at the moment. BTFU on the medium compound tires now crossing the line. He jumps up with a 0.447 improvement. He is still in 13th there with that 115.958 on the mediums. It looks like he's just trying to gradually improve his times on each compound of tire, get a feel for how all of those compounds are feeling on the current conditions. I would not be surprised if we saw BTFU jump back in onto those softs as he comes off to the outside, allowing Yoda by. Yoda in 5th at the moment on an in-lap himself, it would seem.
Yeah, I'm just looking at Zamis here. He's about to start his lap. Rounding the final corner now. Across the line. Currently sitting in 8th position with a 115.1. So he's hoping to improve. Bit of a turbulent season so far for the Alfa Romeo. Of course, our founder of the Misfits Racing League has a very, very tidy turn to 1, 2, and 3. Makes his way down into the Sector 1, split into Sector 2 with a quick left, and then the quick flick to the right. This very, very slow technical section. And up the gears we go into the S's. 5th gear, using all of the track available. You see though that front left tire just dancing on that white line as he entered the S section. But now into Sector 3, technical stadium portion of the lap. Using first gear to get that extra rotation, using all the curb on that right-hand side. Short shifts the 3rd gear, trying to get that traction and the power down, and it will be 3rd.
Very nice.
So the Alfa Romeo, just behind the Renault of Raggy Jr. in 2nd. Very, very close to the top 3 at the moment.
I have to say, Mikhail, I'm sure you saw it as I did there on that final inside curbing that he took just coming into that final turn. He got very, very lucky. He almost had that front left wheel completely on the curbing, but he just had enough left on circuit there for the stewards to say, okay, we're going to let you on through. And as a result of that, he's into a fantastic 3rd place grid position for the time being. Of course, a few drivers still yet to come through for their final runs. It is, as you say, Mikhail, the calm before the storm.
Well, we've still got quite a few drivers out on the circuit. I'm currently looking at our current provisional pole sitter, Chenjay, as he makes his way through the S's, and it looks like he's losing the rear a little bit. It looks like he's backed out of that one.
Now on board with the Racing Point of Icy as he makes his way through Sector 1 now. Into Sector 2 he goes on the soft compound tire.
Yeah, Rackety.
115.9 the time that he's looking to beat.
Yeah, Rackety just coming across the line to set his first lap of the session. Currently a 1:15.1. That'll put him in 10th in the other Ferrari.
Ooh, and a very, very unfortunate invalidation for the Racing Point, making his way through the midsection of the S's there. Just getting a little bit too much of that curb. So tough luck for Icy there, as Fubar, in typical fashion, trying to one-shot at Mikhail. He's currently on a flyer, but he's invalidated through, I want to say, the S's, but as we jumped on board with him, he was already invalid, so it's very possible that he did it into that double right section, maybe coming out of Sector 1. But, so the Mercedes, no time on the board just yet for him. And I do believe we'll see him jump into the pits now.
Yeah, Fubar, no stranger to leaving it to a single one-shot qualifying, as he's actually retired. So he will start last.
Very interesting season we were talking about earlier for the Alfa Romeo squad, but even more interesting, I have to say, has how the season's been for the Mercedes squad. Speaking of decent racers and good racing throughout the season, though. We have Lutra now on a flyer through the S section, just barely keeping things clean through the exit out there, as he almost brought a little bit too much of that car onto the curb. He's coming up on some traffic. That's Alex pulling off to the outside as Lutra makes his way through the stadium section here in Mexico. I'm still all the way back in Baku, Mikhail.
That's alright. It is very slow, very technical. So I'll forgive you for that one. It's only missing the walls. But I think did Lutra improve on this time? He's currently 5th, but I don't know if he actually improved on this time. Must have missed that. But meanwhile, that Toro Rosso that he caught in the stadium, Alex, has started a lap himself. Now making his way into Sector 1 as there's now just over a minute left on the clock. And as you can see by that mini-map, all the cars are basically out on track at the moment.
It is a very busy circuit right now. Lutra slowing things down, allowing the Haas by.
I'm just keeping an eye on Alex. He's making his way through the S's. Seems to be pretty tidy so far. See, he's 2.8 tenths up as he makes his way into the stadium, but he loses the rear on the curbing. So that'll definitely cost him a bit of time. And he loses it again on that right-hand side curbing as he makes his way out of the stadium. He runs out of deployment as he crosses the line. And it will still be a 2/10 improvement, putting him up to 5th place, but he knows that there's more time left on the table. But unfortunately, Striff, that'll be his last run with only 15 seconds remaining.
Speaking of very fast movers at the moment, Astrorite making his way out of the S's now into the stadium section for the Williams squad. He's shown fantastic pace this season so far. Is he going to be able to put that car further up on the grid? We are about to find out, as he's making his way round through the final turn now, and he's invalidated it right there, Mikhail, on the final turn, and it looked like it was going to be a 114, but you can see there he's jumped off the throttle and made his way back into the box. Jean is also coming into the box there. He will not be able to improve either. Henry making his way through stadium section now on what looks to be a valid lap. Will he be able to improve on the P12, rounding that final turn now? And he does improve by almost a 10th. He jumps up into 11th position there. Not where he wanted to be, I'm sure. Not having the best qualifying. BTFU crossing the line now into 8th position with a full 2nd and a 10th improvement, a 1.160 improvement to be precise. Custom will take the checkered flag there in 14th position. Yoda is currently off, allowing drivers to move on by through the S's section, as it looks like he may have had an issue.
Yes, Ivan's improving on those soft compound tires up into 14th. And Yoda retired, so he will stay P9. And that, I believe, is your grid for the race, ladies and gentlemen. So Chenjay, with his first career pole in MRL Season 2, round number 16 at Mexico.
Well, it's a very good lineup that we're seeing here for Mexico. Not as jumbled up as we saw in Tier 2. Of course, weather playing a role in that one. But clear skies here for quali in the Tier 1 division. Of course, everybody has qualified on the soft compound tire. Zamayo, with that ERS issue, will be starting in 18th here. Monkey S taking a qualification ban. And Fubar, unfortunately, unable to set a time as a result of perhaps leaving things a little too late in the session, Mikhail. But of course, Shenjay on pole position. CFR Ruegi Jr. will be lining up next to him. Bois in 3rd, Zamis in 4th. Very good from the Alpha. Nice to see him up there. Alex in 5th, and that will round off your top 5 drivers. Of course, we will go through the rest of the grid during our formation lap. But if you guys are excited for this Mexican Grand Prix, of course, let us know who you have your bets on for the podium here at the end of this one. And make sure you smash that follow button if you're new. My name is Triffium, and joining me as always is Mikhail, as we are now loading into the pit lane for a dry race, it would seem.
Yep, not a single cloud in sight above Mexico City, or at least this portion of Mexico City. So looks like there won't be any weather to throw a spanner into the works for these drivers. Um, yeah, but that was only qualifying, and of course you can't discount Zamayo starting 18th on the grid, but he has shown incredible pace over the course of the season. So dare I say, he might be in with a good shot at winning this race if everything goes his way today.
For sure, for sure. Just to give a quick shout out to the chat to Mr. MRL Sneaky in the chat. Yes, I saw that there was a message. I have not read it. I will of course do that after this race. I'm a little preoccupied at the moment, as you may have been able to tell. Of course, waiting on a few more drivers to load in here. Alex Bitto, Yoda, Raggy Jr., and Monkey S all finalizing setups here.
Yeah, we're just waiting to.
As I always explain to drivers, it's extremely imperative that you do not tab out for any reason during these races, as well, Codemasters is not the best Codemaster. Anyway, moving on. Hopefully, we don't see a result seeing us do a repeat or a restart, if you will. Monkey has now left. Raggy Jr. and Yoda have appeared to bug, and they are required to leave the session. I'm not sure if we're going to see a restart as a result. Of course, Mikal will take care of that with BTFU, our current lobby host. And we do have a host migration, so that is going to bring us back, of course, to the lobby screen.
Yep, so it's very unfortunate for those three drivers, of course. Masters of Code strike again. So hopefully we'll be able to get underway as soon as we can.
Yeah, it's very unfortunate that these lobbies are unstable, depending on the day, I'm going to say. Each day throws its own set of different conditions at you as far as the coding of the game is concerned. But we are going to be getting into a new lobby in just a few moments. So for those of you joining us, thank you for sticking around. And hopefully we get into things as quickly as we can. As we are now in the reforming of the lobby stage. Codemasters, if you for some reason are watching this, I certainly hope that we do not have to deal with some of these issues come the release of F1 2020 in just under a month's time. It'd be fantastic.
Yeah, as we're just trying to get everything sorted, of course. We will have a custom grid with the qualifying results, and to any drivers that may be listening to the stream while the lobby is getting reformed, just a reminder that for everyone who qualified within the top 10, you are required to start on the same compound of tire that you qualified on. That is for only drivers inside the top 10 as per the FIA rules and regulations. And of course, when you get into the lobby, do not forget to load your setup. It can be a very, very easy mistake to make. I'm sure some of these drivers would be aware of.
Of course, the grid is going to be set to what we had coming out of qualification. The only thing that will be different is the level of tire wear on the tires. However, we do know that all of the drivers qualified on the soft compound tire. Of course, only the drivers in the bottom half of the grid, that is the drivers from 11th through into 20th, will have their option of picking a different tire, meaning that all drivers 1 through 10 who qualified on those soft compound tires are still required to qualify on those tires.
Yeah, sorry for leaving you high and dry, Strip. I have to deal with a couple issues as we get this lobby set up again. So I apologize to you, and I also apologize to the viewers. I will be back in a couple minutes.
Not a worry at all. I'm sure I can keep the chat entertained. So, for all of you watching, who is your favorite here to win this Mexican Grand Prix? It is, of course, round 16 of MRL action. Unfortunately, the Codemasters delay is keeping us a little bit further behind. Freeware going ahead and calling it early here, saying Zamayo from last position. Gadwin jumping in and saying Bois, his fellow Red Bull driver, as you saw Gadwin in Tier 2 earlier today driving for Toro Rosso. Bois, his former teammate, getting that promotion up to Red Bull, very much like Alex Albon did last season. So Gadwin rooting for his former teammate there in the Red Bull. A lot of fans of Mr. Alex Bitto there. And love to see it. Love to see the support for drivers. Love to see the fans coming out and watching their mates and friends take on some serious racing action here in the MRL. There you can see the Spaniard in the Toro Rosso. Of course, Alex has shown some fantastic, absolutely fantastic speed here throughout this season. So make sure, if you are a good friend of Mr. Alex Bitto, that you smash that follow button, because you showing us support shows Mr. Alex Bitto support, and we will be watching him very closely throughout the race, of course. Tiger Jr. in the chat going for Mr. Monkey in the Alfa Romeo. We have a prediction from Mr. J saying Shenjay for the win, Bois P2, Bitto P3, Yoda P4, and Rackety P5. A very, very bold, precise prediction there, and he's calling it that Zamayo gets crashed out somehow. Hopefully, we don't see that. Mr. Walter in the chat saying definitely not me, aka Waggy Jr. Shenjay for the win is the prediction from Mr. Maxim. Monkey saying last to Pog. I'd love to see it, my friends. I'd love to see it. A lot of faith going into Mr. Alex Bitto here, as well as Shenjay. The pressure is on. Shenjay, for those of you who are unaware, has been a glorified P2 finisher this season, as he hasn't been able to secure that elusive league win. Maybe today is the day, as Zamayo has had some mechanical issues causing him to start from the back of the grid. BTFU raced Tiger Racing, aka Tiger Junior Racing's father, last night in PPR. He is, and I can say this for sure, a very clean racer, as I also was in that race, racing alongside Tiger, and he makes things quite difficult on circuit. So shout out to Tiger Racing if he's here with us, and of course shout out to Tiger Jr. And as our moderator, Mr. Henry, said, please do your very best to speak English in the chat. As Mikau currently helping us get the grid sorted out ahead of this race. We wouldn't be having this delay if the game was a little more stable. So hopefully 2020 does not yield the same issues that we've seen in this game. Otherwise, I imagine that the developer will be in quite some kind of trouble with the Formula One. The Formula One big wigs at hand, I'll say. And yes, please, English in the chat as we are getting back into this lobby now. I do believe we'll have Mikau with us in just a few moments, as he's just going to ensure things are finalized ahead of this race. You will be timed out for use of non-English language in the chat for those of you who I have been telling and gently warning. I appreciate the need to communicate in your native language, but of course there are more than just yourselves in the chat, and it's always great for everybody to interact. And of course it's great for me to kind of see what you guys are saying there in the chat as well.
All right. I think we're all sorted and good to go ahead of the race. Sorry for all the delays. But sun's shining here in Mexico City. Of course, the drivers loading their setups. Again, to any drivers listening to this while you are on the grid, remember to load your setup, because the last thing you want is to be running default setup around the streets. Well, not really the streets, but around the Mexico City circuit.
The streets. See, Mikau, I'm not the only one who's still got their head stuck back in Baku after what we saw. What a race it was there in Baku. Of course, we've had a race since, but you can never forget those streets of Baku. They are forever ingrained in your memory, whether it be from success or epic failure. At least in my sense, it was the latter.
Or both.
Or
You know,
both.
you have a good mix there. You know, Baku, very, very technical circuit. But we're not here at Baku today, Strifian. We're here in the heart of Mexico City. As I do believe we are going to be going underway for this formation lap.
The last thing you want to see on a restart is that lack of formation lap. So now we do have the formation lap. Rackety starting in 11th position there on the medium compound tire. Jean on the mediums. Custom and Fubar on the mediums as well over at Mercedes. Everybody else on the grid on the soft. So let's talk about some strategies here, Mikau. What do you think we're going to see? And are we going to have any safety car predictions here in this race?
Well, there are quite a few viable options around Mexico. The two-stop, probably one of the only tracks where a two-stop can be a viable option, going to two sets of mediums, or even, one set of mediums and an extra set of softs for all these drivers who are electing to start on that red striped soft compound tire. But if your tire wear is, fairly minimal, you can stretch those softs to make a one-stop work, either from soft to hard or even soft to medium, as we saw Kai Pacini pull off in Tier 2 just a few moments ago. But it really all depends on when a safety car comes out, and if a safety car comes out, which I think is a beautiful segue into the safety car prediction. Not entirely too sure. Of course, we did see a couple of safety cars in Tier 2. So it definitely has the potential to come out, especially with all the drivers jostling for position in the run down to turn one. So I'm going to say there's going to be one full and one virtual.
One full and one virtual. I'm going to assume we have a very similar situation to the Tier 2 race. 2 full safety cars and at minimum 1 VSC. Of course, Mexico, not one of those races where you can easily predict safety cars, not like what we were speaking about a few moments ago in Baku. Baku, definitely one of those circuits where you're going to just assume a safety car going to come out. But of course, now you can hear those engines revving here. Drivers all set on the grid. 4 red lights, 5 red lights here in Mexico. It's lights out and we're off racing. Mick out down into turn one. A beautiful start from a lot of these drivers. That's Alex Bitto down the middle of the Alpha and Red Bull. Let's see how it pans out for him coming down into the turn. Massive shuffle of position here.
Yeah, Raggy Jr. getting past Chenjay off the start. Chenjay cutting a bit of that turn two, and it looks like there's a spinning Toro Rosso. I think that's Alex.
It is
And he
Alex.
goes to the grass. There's a lot of end plates and a lot of debris flying all over the place. I don't know if they're leaves or end plates at this point.
I think it's a little bit of a mixture of both.
Both end plates. It looks like a half spun around as well. That's Skybits at turn 4, going into the Mercedes of Fubar. We do have a virtual safety car after Sector 1.
Looks like Alex Bitto and Luke there, who started in the top 10 here, taking a massive drop into 16th and 17th. They got locked up there. You saw it was Alex on the inside of that Renault as they were on the grass. Now we have that VSC coming through this S's section for these guys. Shenjay has dropped back into second position. Reggie Jr. with an absolute excellent race start here. Bois in third, Zamis is in fourth, and King rounds off your top 5. Not where the fans wanted to see Alex Bitto at the start of this one at all. Lutra not being where he wanted to be. Henry is into 15th as well. So Zamayo, who started at the back of this grid, is now into 13th position. As I do believe that VSC is now going to be coming offline. Customs taking a 5-second penalty for speeding into the pit lane. Shenjay on the outside of Raga Jr. Big lockup from the Haas into the turn. That's Bois along the outside of him. They're locking up a little bit there. That's Bois, though, out in front in the Red Bull. Shenjay goes off a little bit wide. Shenjay now into third position. He's looking to have a run back on the Red Bull. He's going to get it. Possibly a illegal overtake, allowing him back by there as a result of the contact. And there's a retirement. That's Lutra, who has retired out of this race with Jasko, I do believe. They've made into some kind of collision. You can see there's a massive amount of debris there. The Red Bull and the Renault coming together. Massive yellow flags going up through into Sector 2. And no safety car deployment as of yet, but it's very possible we see one for that, as that was quite a large incident, and it looks like the marshals have cleared that up, so there will be no safety car here. Things.
Oh, there is a virtual safety car.
Oh, and look at me eating my words. A virtual safety car is deployed there on lap 2, so that's 2 of them in as many laps that we have seen here so far in Mexico. So both of our predictions have now been smashed out of the park, as that is Reggie Jr. coming in on the early pit stop, getting off of those softs, perhaps going on to some mediums, and he does. Astrodite into the pits as well here under VSC conditions, looking to see what tires he's going to jump on. Bois into second position. Shenjay back into lead of this race after a little bit of a brush up with the Red Bull following him. And Zamis into a fantastic third for Alpha, as the VSC has now come back offline. DRS is enabled here on lap 3, and Bois is looking to chase down Shenjay.
Yeah, I think Shenjay is experiencing a bit of a timing bug at the moment. I don't know how it's showing on stream, but for me, it's saying that he's in 19th, which certainly isn't the case.
Definitely not the case, as we're watching our first place driver follow him right now through these S's. Of course, I'm hoping to see a reshuffle of the timing once these drivers do cross the line. I really hope that we have not been plagued by the unfortunate safety car glitch that has been plaguing some other leagues. We have been very fortunate through these past few rounds not to deal with such a bug.
Just something I noticed, Zamaro's up to 7th, or 8th, technically speaking. So he's made 10 positions in the space of 3 laps. And he
Zamayo
sets a
into 7th, and he sets the fastest lap of 1:19.160. He's following along the rear of BTFU, who is in 6th position. His teammate Alex, who started out ahead of him, not having the race he wanted to have. Now that's Icy,
Icy's off.
and now
The
we have
exit
a
of the
full safety
S's.
car deployed here. After Icy's gone off at the exit of the S's here, you can see Fubar is down to a crawl through the exit of this section. We'll have to see if he has any kind of view of Icy's vehicle. It does not appear he will, as at the end of lap 3, we have a full safety car deployment. So it is 2 VSCs and a full safety car in 3 laps of racing here in Mexico. And unfortunately, there's been a massive shuffle of the grid here. Shenjie is your race leader, as the timing tower has unfortunately bugged for us here in the broadcast booth, if you want to call it that.
I sincerely hope that it's only the broadcast booth that is getting this timing bug, because this could cause a massive amount of problems.
Shenjie into the pits now. We'll have to see who follows suit. Bois opting to stay out here. Rackety opting to stay out on those 4-lap-old medium tires, and he is into 2nd position. Zamayo on the 4-lap-old softs into 3rd position. Jean.
Evo has been disqualified from the session for too many penalties. It's been 4 laps and we've got 3 drivers out. Unbelievable scenes here at Mexico. Nevertheless, Bois has caught up to the safety car queue. Rackety right behind him, and his teammate Zamayo in 3rd. Still rocking those 4-lap-old soft compound tires, Triff.
There has been a multitude of penalties handed out under these safety car conditions as a result of Shenjie's pit stop. The game, it would appear, did not recognize him as the race leader. And I really don't know what to make of this situation, Mikau, as everything has been thrown out of proportion and out of form here in this Mexican Grand Prix on lap 5.
Yeah, it's quite... I don't think anyone would have predicted this kind of start to the Mexican GP. No, I certainly wouldn't have in a million years. Hopefully we'll be able to get underway soon. Looks like the safety car will be going around for another lap or 2, as it will wait for the Mercedes of Fubar to catch the queue. Though he is quite a ways away behind.
So unfortunately, as a result of some very unfortunate typical Codemasters glitches, we have had a massive shakeup in this race. We've already had to restart once this evening as a result, and here we are, lap 6, following a safety car. Shenjie, who pitted, is now currently listed as 17th on the grid. However, he's currently running in 10th as a result of his pit stop onto the hards. So we'll have to see at what point in this race that that timing tower wants to fix itself. Now we have a Zamis penalty coming through, according to race control, for a severe collision with Raggy Jr. Certainly
That's
hope that...
okay.
And there we have it. Shenjie has been boosted back into 10th position. The timing tower has hopefully corrected itself and will continue to do so once these drivers cross into lap 7. I'm hoping we see some accurate representation of the timings.
You never know with Codemasters. Throw anything at you.
These are the things that you wish never happened. You wish that the races were in complete control of the drivers, or the drivers, I should say. You wish that the drivers were in complete control of their races. Unfortunately, with Codemasters in F1 2019, that has very much not been the case in a lot of scenarios and situations.
Yep, there's not a whole lot the drivers can do about it at the moment. Uh, we're going around again for another safety car, so we are now on lap 7 of this race, and we've only had what is it, 3/4 of a lap of green running so far.
Pretty well, yeah. I'd say you're fairly accurate on that. And now, as I was expecting the timing tower to update itself, it hasn't completely updated itself. It has Shenjie in his 10th running position. However, it is showing him currently a lap down. And hopefully that is not the case. Whether I switch it from interval or gap to leader, it is not switching, which means that the timing tower is not liking Mr. Shenjie over at the Haas squad today. 20 drivers began here, 17 remaining, Mikhail.
Yeah, of course, very unfortunate for Lutra, Icy, and Stevo, who are all out of this race for one reason or another. But looks like the safety car should be coming in this lap, as Fubar has now caught the back of the field. So hopefully we'll get more than half a lap of green running.
And there's the confirmation from race control. All drivers better keep a safe distance, as now Bois, your race leader, looking to slow down this grid as he's being followed by 2 Ferraris at the moment. And I'm sure as a Red Bull driver coming onto a restart here in Mexico, that is the last thing that you want to see is 2 Ferraris behind you on that long straight section of the circuit. Here you can see now throttle is being adjusted for these drivers. It looks like Bois may be a little bit too close to that safety car. Custom taking a 5-second severe collision penalty. And it looks like Bois is off racing here. We are back to green flag racing as he has crossed the line. Rackety in second and Zamayo in third. Jean very tight to the rear of that Ferrari. Is he going to have a look? We have a front wing cam coming down into turn 1. Where is he going to go? He moves off to the outside here, but he is going to brake, in fact, on the rear of that Ferrari. That's Reggie Jr. battling with Alex there. Reggie Jr. up the inside of Alex Bitto. He's getting the move done into 5th. Zamis having a good view of this unfolding here, but he's got to watch out. That's King on his outside. Zamis getting caught.
As they made their way into the first technical section, there's a bit of a tap there from King. Looks like Yoda will get past him up into 8th place now. And Bois with a 1.2 second gap already over Zamayo, who's gotten past his teammate. So he's now eyeing down that Red Bull, but further back on the grid, don't see too many issues. It looks like there's a massive battle going on for 11th place as Henry makes a mistake and he has to go really wide, and Skybits is out, and we have another safety car.
Oh my dear. So we've just finished. I think you may have jinxed it, Mikhail. You said maybe we can get more green flag running, but the stewards are disagreeing with you, and it looks like Codemasters is just here today to throw a wrench in things with the extreme quick deployment of that safety car. Now we have another shuffle of the grid as a few drivers jumping into the pits. That's Alex Bitto, Bois, and Zamayo all into the pits. You can see Zamayo there jumping onto the hard compound, Bois getting onto those mids. What is Alex Bitto going to jump on? He's looking at a fresh set of mediums as well. So those drivers all in fairly decent position considering the rest of the field ahead of them will need to pit again. I cannot stress that enough. Not a single one of the drivers currently running ahead of Bois, Zamayo, or Alex Bitto are going to be going to the end of this race on their current tires. Mikhail.
Yeah, I don't even think Bois and Alex could make it to the end. I think they're predicting that there will be another safety car or another opportunity to box for fresh softs towards the end of the race. It's only really Zamayo that can realistically go to the end of the race on those tires.
Perhaps we'll see all of the safety cars expended by the time we reach that halfway point in this race, and maybe it'll just be an absolute sprint to the end, as we've already had 2 VSCs and 2 full safety cars deployed here in Mexico, which, if I'm not mistaken, gives us at maximum one more of either the full safety car or VSC deployments here, as I think the limit is 5 overall safety cars. Correct me if I'm wrong.
To the best of my knowledge, I think that's the limit. But it's Codemasters, you never know. And so far we have the longest, I think, green flag running we've had has been 3/4 of a lap.
The last time we saw this much safety car action, we'll have to take you back to Baku once again, where we actually saw 4 full safety cars deployed in that one for the Tier 2 racing that happened then. That was, of course, 2 weeks ago. You can find all of that action on our YouTube channel that was just posted by Streamlabs at a convenient time in the chat. As we are under safety car conditions once again here, I do believe we'll see it come in at the end of you got a couple of drivers in the pits there. Alex Bitto jumping onto hard compound tires, not liking that first decision that he had made in custom, getting in on some mediums. So we'll have to see if the safety car comes in at the end of lap 10.
It should come in at the end of this lap. I mean, you never know. I really hope it does, because I want to watch some racing, not follow the safety car. I'm sure these drivers in the cockpits of their cars feel the same way.
I'm sure all of our viewers that are also tuning in with Zamis over on his channel, as he's currently running in 4th, are wondering when the racing is going to get going as well, as he's currently in a very good position. He's on the hard compound tires. Everybody ahead of him is on the older mediums, and he's looking to go a further distance on those hards for sure.
Yeah, we have gotten the call that the safety car will be in this lap, so Rackety, our current leader of this race, will be pacing the field in Sector 3, and it'll be up to the Ferrari driver to determine when we get going once again. As the safety car peels into the pit lane, all eyes are on this scarlet red Ferrari. It looks like Jean has had a bit of a mistake out of the final corner, so Raggy Jr. will get past him on the restart, and it looks like there's might be a 3 wide behind them. The battle for 5th place at the moment, or 4th place, sorry, as Zamis, Yoda, and King going 3 wide into turn 1. This could be interesting. There's a bit of a squeeze, and Yoda's been spun around. Simply got nowhere to go. He's on the grass, and he'll be losing a bunch of positions there.
He does not appear to have damage on that McLaren. Very unfortunate incident, 3 wide into turn 1 like that. Shenjie is into 6th position now, and I'm hoping I see a proper interval for the Haas driver, who has eluded the timing tower this entire race. All it's giving me is a green arrow. Thank you for that. It's very useful information, as his currently coming behind King. Fubar's had an issue. Fubar has just had a very unfortunate race. You can see there his entire front left wing is missing. Shenjie currently running in 6th. Fubar just the Mercedes squad. Toto has had a very interesting day. That is all I'm going to say. Reggie Jr., we saw him with an absolutely super overtake on the restart here, and now he's looking for another one. He is fighting Mikhail with Rackety. He has a good slipstream coming down into turn 1. He's breaking off behind the rear now. Doesn't look like he has enough speed, though, to make anything happen. He gets back behind the rear of that Ferrari, but it's Rackety first on the brakes. Reggie Jr. not able to make anything happen just yet. Rackety with a very good defense here in the Ferrari. Jean not too far behind all of this action as he's watching it all unfold. He's broken away a 1.5 seconds from King there in 4th position. Raggy looking inside. Ooh. Not able to make anything happen there. Rackety doing a very good job, and there's a big cut from Jean, and he is going to take a penalty as a result, but he is now up the inside of Reggie Jr. Reggie Jr., though, with a fantastic exit there, wheel to wheel into the left-hander, moving into the S's section. Rackety leading this race on the 11-lap old medium compound tires.
Yeah, very good driving there from those two. Not having major contact between the Renault and the McLaren. Bit of a tap from Rackety onto Raggy Jr., but looks like Raggy Jr. trying to go for a dive up the inside into the stadium section. You don't see this every day, ladies and gentlemen. And John going off the track, trying to get around that Ferrari. And with all this fighting, King, Zamus, and Shenjay all in this battle for our first place as DRS has been enabled. Look at Rackety, he's getting swallowed left and right. It's going to be 3 wide for these three going into turn number 1. Who's going to be the last of the late breakers? Looks like Rackety has gotten ahead for the time being. But it's still side by side for the Racing Point and the McLaren behind them as a yellow flag in sector 2. I think
Zamis moving up the outside of Jean now. He got a great exit out of that turn, and he's out in front of the McLaren, looking to capture perhaps another position from this Racing Point of King, currently running in 3rd. The Alpha is up into 4th out in front of Jean. What a great move there from the Alpha. Great opportunity seized for sure, as he's now looking to perhaps make up some more positions. He is on those 8-lap-old hards, of course. Henry very close to the rear of Jean. Is he going to be able to make a move here? He's got to go a little bit wide there. Jean maybe not as quick as him through that section of circuit. Hopefully he doesn't take a penalty off the inside of Henry. That's Bois into 6th position with an absolute sneak attack on the Williams. Fantastic move there. I don't even know if Henry saw him coming, but beautiful stuff. Very clean overtake there from Bois. Henry giving him all the space in the world there. Jean is going to jump into the pits. Wow.
Well, it's not over yet. DRS has been enabled. So, see those rear wings all smacking open.
Zamis looking at the inside of Rackety for that 3rd position. Not going to make anything happen here. We have another overtake. I believe that's Alex Bitto, wheel to wheel with Astrodite through turn 1. He's up the inside, and he's now into 10th position, capturing that final points position. And we have a yellow flag, excuse me, a blue flag coming through as Shenjay, the timing tower, just didn't want to give him an inch. He has left the session at this point, I do believe, perhaps disconnected. I certainly hope that's the case, as if he did leave, he could be at risk of major penalties here.
And Fubar chooses to retire in the pits. It's very, very unfortunate for Fubar. He just having such rotten luck of these past couple of rounds.
Now, I missed it, but Bois got out in front of Zamis there. Henry's into 6th. BTFU in 7th, catching him as well on the fresher mediums. Raggy Jr. crosses with the fastest lap of the session so far, 1:18.660. Rackety is finally jump off those mediums, starting to feel them, which means Raggy Jr. is your race leader. King in 2nd and Bois in 3rd.
You can see the DRS train starting to form. Sumayo currently in 7th place on those hards that he pitted for under the last safety car. So he is looking down to chase down. He's looking to chase down the Toro Rosso of BTFU for that 6th place, trying to make his way through the field. As Alex and Yoda side by side through the first technical section, into turn number 5 they go, leaving adequate amounts of space. But looks like Alex trying to go down the inside, has to squeeze Yoda out a little bit, and he will get the move done.
Now it looks as though Shenjay has rejoined. Beautiful maneuvering between the Toro Rosso and McLaren here, as Shenjay has rejoined. Very interesting to see what kind of situation we'll have over at that Haas garage, whether or not he'll carry on or whether or not Gunther's calling for the retirement into the pits. We will see. You can see there stops on screen. Alex, Astrodite, and Custom all with 2 stops here in this race. Fubar with 3 stops before he retired the car into the pits. There you can see with 4 stops on screen. And we have a overtake. It's Bois along the inside out in front of King into turn 1. There's the position changes there on the tower for you. Zamayo up 11 positions, the biggest gain here as far as moving ahead. Shenjay's dropped back 14 positions. Very unfortunate for the Haas driver.
Oh, there's contact between Henry and BTFU. Oh, Zamayo must be fuming. Just can't seem to find a way past this Toro Rosso at the moment. And all this battling is allowing Alex, the other Toro Rosso, to catch up behind him. but the gap's starting to extend a little bit as Bois picks up his first 3-second time penalty of the evening.
BTFU goes a little bit wide there. Zamajo's looking for a move. He's going to take it. He's on the inside of BTFU into the stadium section. What a move from the Ferrari as he gets that done with ease. Now into 6th position, looking to hunt down the Williams ahead. That is Henry.
The gaps towards the front of the grid starting to extend a little bit, but Bois is showing the pace that he has, sitting the fastest up the race so far, and rapidly catching that Renault of Raggy Jr., currently in the lead of this race. BTFU looking for a bit for a move for on Zamayo, but isn't able to find it just yet.
Meanwhile, Custom has made a pass on Aphrodite for that 10th position here. Round the outside down into turn 1, he made the move. Very good job from the Mercedes, looking to try and capitalize and get a points finish here. His teammate is now out of it, so he is the sole hope for the Mercedes squad.
Well, he's in a points-paying position at the moment, so let's hope that he can keep it there or perhaps even improve on his current place. Oh, Henry getting a bit squirrely out of the S's. That's going to open the door for Samaya, who says, thank you very much, I'll take that. Hard on the brakes so they make the stadium, but Henry's fighting it back round the outside. We'll have the inside for the next left-hander in the baseball stadium. And he will hold that position for the time being, but dare I say with the DRS, it's a lost cause at this point.
Great defense from the Williams. I'm sure it's a big highlight for him defending against the reigning champion, Mr. Zamayo, in that Ferrari. But of course, like you said, that DRS, you can just see the amount of momentum he's carrying. But meanwhile, up at the front of the grid, Bois has made a pass on Raggy Jr. in the battle for P1. Unfortunately, we missed it, but it looks like he may have done it down into turn 1 there with the DRS, which can be expected. Such a long DRS straight there in Sector 1 here in Mexico. So it's now Raggy Jr. doing what he can. He's on those 15-lap-old mediums. Not much he's going to be able to do against Bois on those 9-lap-old tires. There's a massive difference in pace on them. You can see now as Bois is pulling out almost a second already moving through this S's section, Mikal.
Yeah, just the tire advantage at this point in the race is just so dramatic.
Meanwhile, Alex is actually gaining on Henry here. Henry looking a little squirrely through this S's section. Alex looking to do what Zamayo did earlier, down into stadium. Is he going to make it move? He's on the inside. Henry gets it done. Pushes himself a little bit wide in order to get out in front of that Toro Rosso there. Hopefully he didn't take any warnings, but Alex is going to have to wait and just be patient with his time here as he comes down into the straight. Henry crossing off a little bit. Looks like he might have wanted to go into the pits there for a second. Maybe he thought better of it. He is on 17-lap-old mediums, Mick.
Yeah, he's been on those tires for a long time, but as we cross the halfway point on this race, looks like Alex is going to make a move around the inside of Henry. But Henry holds his line. Looks like BT's trying to do the same as well, following his teammate through. That's completely opened the gap for the Toro Rosso. He'll get that DRS, and that's both Toro Rossos past the Williams of Henry.
Henry trying to go as long as he can on those mediums, it would seem here, but he's now under threat from none other than second position standings driver, Mr. Yoda in the McLaren, who we saw have a very unfortunate beginning of this race, but he is now back into the points, and he is in striking distance of that Williams as we make our way through this S's section where we've seen Henry struggling on these tires. Hopefully he's able to maintain it until he gets into the pits. Yoda not close enough to make anything happen at the moment, but he is getting close, and you can see there Henry taking a time penalty, I'm sure as a result of a little bit less traction on those older tires. But Raggy Jr. is taking a 5-second penalty, Mikal. It's a 5-second penalty for speeding in the pit lane as he's looking to get off those very, very old mediums. Henry has decided to stay out, so he's going to be going 19 laps now on those tires.
That's a very, very long time on that set of tires. But Zamayo, in the meantime, has made the move on Zamis, getting it done into turn 1. So he's now up into the podium places and chasing down the racing point of King. Very nice for Racing Point this race so far.
wanting to stick with Yoda through this lap. He's on the 15-lap old mediums, whereas Henry's on those 18-lap old mediums. And I imagine we're going to see Henry struggle once again through this S's section. Perhaps Yoda struggling as well, maybe not able to make a move the way we saw Zamayo do to BTFU earlier. Zamayo has just been cutting through this field, but Yoda now looking just as shaky as Henry through this S's section. But he is, of course, extremely close to the rear of that Williams, and that Williams does have a penalty. We'll have to see at what point do these drivers, Mikau, decide it's time to pit. You can see Yoda going a little wide there on the exit into the final turn. Henry has blinked. He's in. Yoda will make his way into 7th position. As a result of that, Custom is now into 8th, and Henry's going to lose a few positions here as he went 19 laps on those mediums. Very, very long stint for the Williams driver for sure, as BTFU along the inside of his teammate down into turn 1. Very nice stuff from him. Alex on those hard compound tires, maybe not as much pace at the moment, or Mikau, could they be using some kind of team strategy here for the Toro Rosso squad? You know, you can see BTFU, he had the DRS coming out of that overtake. They could just be pulling each other along, of course. BTFU on those 16-lap old mediums could be starting to feel the wear here. We'll definitely see it as Alex Bitto is now behind him coming through this S's section.
Yeah, those tires on that lead Toro Rosso at the moment, probably not in the best of conditions. He will probably have to pit again, whereas Alex can, in theory, go the end of the race on this set of tires. But looks like the gaps are starting to extend just a little bit. The two Toro Rossos are currently the closest gap on the track at the moment. Everyone's sort of just trying to run their own races at this stage.
Shenjie currently running in 15th of this race. The timing tower is showing him laps down. I can assure you that is not the case as a result that we did see him leading this race very early on today. Unfortunately, Codemasters has found it necessary to give him a hard time today.
Yeah, that's extremely unfortunate for the Haas driver. But it looks like gaps sort of staying as they are, so not a lot of action happening on track at the moment. And we are approaching that 2/3 mark. Currently on lap 22. Bois, your current race leader, the 4.5 second advantage over King in 2nd place, but Bois getting another 3 second time penalty.
He went very deep into that stadium section there, coming into that right-hander, Mikau, and we saw him go so deep. He just took that 3 second time penalty. That is not what you want to see from the race leader, especially here in Mexico. We have around 13 laps remaining. 14 if you include the present lap that we are on. And we are going to see a massive amount of pit stops come through here, as we were mentioning earlier when a lot of these drivers got onto these tires, Mikau.
Sorry, but Damas is fighting Zamayo into turn number 1. Through turn number 2 they go. Someone's actually giving Zamayo a fight for a change. What's that, Alfa Romeo with the DRS? And he will get past the Ferrari.
Very nice from Zamis.
Zamis back into the podium places as Henry makes a move on Jasko at the back. Jasko on 20-lap old mediums. That is really, really long.
I don't know how that's going to pay off for Jasko, as Rackety right now on the 8-lap old hards looking to go to the end. Will more than likely be able to catch him within the next few laps there. You can see the interval ticking down at a rapid pace, currently sat at 3 seconds. You'll see it by the end of lap 24, I'm sure at least another second, as the tire difference is massive between the two in that battle for 12th. Zamis is under threat from Zamayo here as he crosses into lap 24, as Zamayo is going to have that DRS on the rear of this Alpha. BTFU makes his way into 4th with his teammate behind him. Zamayo getting across in front of Zamis. You can see Zamis, he dipped into that inside there. Zamayo with a very clear line through into turn 1. But as a result of some pit stops, King being the one of note, jumping onto those soft compound tires, he's going to be looking to go 12 laps to the end, Mikau, and he is now currently in 11th is where he's going to come out as Henry passed him into the final points position. It is currently Bois, Zamayo, and Zamis who are top three, but of course, Zamis on those 19-lap-old hards, Mikau, we are going to see him have to pit again. Zamayo's an even bigger question mark as far as his pit stop. I don't know if we're going to see him go through until the end on those tires. That would put him at almost 27 laps on those hards if he were to go that full distance. So it's very possible that we see our current podium runners pit once again.
The hards are fairly durable, Striff, but I don't know if they're that durable. I think from experience the best, or the longest I could get really any kind of pace out of those hards was about 26, 25 laps. So it'll be interesting to see how these drivers cope as
Reggie
the grip
Jr.
starts to wear away.
Excuse me, sorry for interrupting you, Mr. Mikau. Of course, we got Reggie Jr. there in 9th on the 5-lap-old mediums behind Astrodate on that 20-lap-old set of hards with the DRS. You can just see the absolute momentum he's carrying down here into turn 1. He's going to get that move done with absolute ease as Astrodate has now dropped into 9th. His teammate Henry, 10 seconds, or just... Ooh, and there's an overtake. That's Henry and King having an exchange down the main straight here in Mexico. That's King out in front of Henry now into 10th position on those fresh softs. Henry has taken another time penalty here. Who can blame him? The strict corners here in Mexico can be very difficult to maneuver, especially when you're under threat of a driver overtaking you. Astrodate on those 20-lap-old hards. I imagine, Mikau, we see him pit at the end of lap 25 here. You can see there the lap here in Mexico, very, very quick. And 36 laps to go here in Mexico for these drivers. The tire life starts to ramp up quite quicker. The amount of laps driven on the tires, ramps up quite quick here. Yoda into the pits now on the 21-lap-old mediums. He is going to come out in a very interesting position. We'll have to stay tuned to where he exits, but he is going to jump onto some softs, Mikau.
10 laps on softs is definitely doable, as King, showing the pace he has, setting the fastest lap on those fresh soft compound tires, and already pulling a 2-second gap to Henry behind him. So that's some mega pace from a Racing Point driver. But meanwhile, BCFU on those 20-lap or 21-lap-old mediums, those very, very worn mediums, is slowly catching the back of that Alfa Romeo in front of him. So obviously, that Toro Rosso, very nice on its tires. It's still getting some life out of them after such a long period of time.
The Toro Rosso's in fantastic position right now. BTFU with a beautiful overtake on his teammate earlier in this session. He's been leading him ever since. Of course, Alex is on the slower compound. He's on those hard tires. But of course, BTFU has had to be extremely kind to those mediums. We'll have to see what he opts to do here. 21 laps old. It looks like he's coming into the pits, and that's his teammate who's going to get an overtake on him. We'll be very interested to see where BTFU comes out and on what tires he exits. I do believe he's going to jump onto some softs, as they will be the quickest tire at this point in the race, and they should go to the end. And it looks like he's serving a penalty in the pit box as well, Mikau.
Yeah, as is the Mercedes of Custom, who also followed him into the box. So they'll both be putting on some fresh soft compound tires to run to the end. Zamayo slowly chipping away to that gap between himself and Bois. But it looks like it's going to be very close on the pit exit between Custom and Jean. So Custom got ahead for now, and really aggressively defending that position. Just giving Jean nowhere else to go other than to brake early for turn 1. So he'll stay in 12th for the time being.
John almost losing it there on that curbing, on the outside curbing, coming down into this DRS straight. On those 13-lap-old hards, I imagine he's going to be feeling a little bit of traction loss, especially when you see a driver like Custom out in front on extremely fresh soft compound tires. It's very interesting to see what's going to happen with our front runners right now. With 8 laps remaining, Alex Bitto currently on the freshest tires of the top 4 runners in the Toro Rosso.
Now
Catching
my
up with Zamis down into turn 1 here with DRS. Not going to be able to make a move though.
Yeah, my thinking is if Zamis doesn't pit this lap, he's going to try and stretch those tires to the end, which would be quite the ask, in all honesty. But I think he has the potential to do it, as Alex now going around the outside of the Alfa Romeo into turn number 4, at the inside of turn number 5, and he gets the move done. So Alex now into the podium places. But I'm also curious on what Bois chooses to do. Does he pit for fresh softs, or does he risk it on those mediums and try and stay out as long as he can, trying to fight for that win?
Very, very interesting tire strategies we're seeing here on screen. You know, it's one thing if the tires can make it to the end. It's an entirely different story, however, if those tires will make it to the end without you being overtaken by a multitude of cars here, as Bois is leading the race for the time being. Zamayo, it doesn't really look like he's been able to shrink that gap too much on the 20 lap old hards, Mikkel.
And it looks like those hards have seen the best of their days, as he got a 3-second time penalty earlier as well going through the stadium on that previous lap. So we'll have that to contend to. I know Bois has quite a few penalties, but Zamis behind them, the battle for third. Having a little look around the outside of the Toro Rosso in front, but decides against it. But he's quite a bit closer now as they make their way into sector number 2. Alex holding that inside line, defending very, very well, and will hold that place for another lap, it seems.
You know, I can't believe 24 lap on the hard, and he's still within half a second of Alex Bitto on the 5 lap fresher tire. You know, it just goes to show that the tire degradation, you know, it can play a large role, but at the end of the day, these drivers still have to get behind the wheel and put together some good laps. And Zamis has been he's been extremely consistent throughout this race. Of course, one thing that we'll have to pay attention to throughout the final few laps is where some of these drivers stand on penalties, because Mexico, one of those circuits that likes to dole out a lot of punishment for exceeding track limits, as we've mentioned many a times. Zamis up the inside there with an easy overtake with DRS. Back into the podium places for the Alpha.
Props to him for making those tires last. I'd be absolutely crying on those tires. Calling Bono. Oh, my tires are dead. Tires are dead. As Chenjay moving out of the way. Of course, the blue flags. Very, very unfortunate for Chenjay. He was doing so well at the start and then just had those connection issues.
Ooh, Alex getting very tight to the rear of Zamis there, coming through that double right-hander. He almost brushed that rear tire, causing a spin. And at this point in the race, just the slightest of taps from any of these drivers on these old tires could make or break it, because they're not going to be having that traction they would have on fresher tires, that's for sure.
Yeah, you just don't get that grip on that worn rubber. Now, I apologize for all the tire talk, but these tires are going really, really far, as Chenjay has retired from the session. Don't know whereabouts that was, but very unfortunate for the Haas driver. It looks like Alex is going to make a move on the Alfa Romeo and get that done for the time being. And I think Zamis is committed to going to the end on those tires.
Oh,
Yeah.
That will be something else if he does, but he has more to worry about than just making it to the end on those tires, Mika. You can see there in 5th and 6th, King and Reggie Jr. on the much fresher compounds of tire, going to make up some serious time here on the Alfa Romeo. And Zamis has already started to lose a lot of pace behind Alex. I am going to go ahead and call it here. I think we're going to see a pit stop from him here on the end of lap 31, Mikkel.
Oh, you really think it's worth it to only go 5 laps on the softs?
I
I
do
mean,
think
if
it
he...
will be worth it if he comes out within the top 10, and of course only his engineer will be able to give him the specifics of where he's going to come out, but I think it's a big stretch for him to try and make it to the end of this one on those tires.
Well, he opts to stay out for another lap as they start lap 32 of 36. So 5 laps to go, including the lap we're currently on. I think Alex has expended all of his battery, so won't have really anything to defend this attack from the Alfa Romeo behind him. But he's just a bit too far back on the first DRS zone, but he's a lot closer coming out of turn 3. But do the tires have enough to give him?
Oh, he looks for it, but he's just not close enough to make that move, Mick. But a fantastic battle we're seeing unfold between the Alpha and Toro Rosso drivers of Alex and Zamis here. Great stuff, very clean racing here. Not too much going on throughout the rest of the grid at the moment, so we're keeping things parked here for the time being. Of course, BTFU currently within a second and a half of Yoda, ahead of him in that fight for P7, as he's now brought that down to less than a second, as we'll watch that unfold as best we can here from the timing tower and jump on over if we think something's about to go down. But for now, let's take a look and see what happens between these two drivers as far as pit stops. Are they going to pit at all, or do you really think they're committed? Zamis certainly is, so is Alex, so they're going to keep going. And we're on lap 33 now here. Zamis on 28 lap old hards, looking to go to the end. And I have to say that is quite the feat if he's able to get that done. Now with the DRS down the outside of Alex into turn 1. Almost equal on braking. Alex just out in front, just barely. Zamis being very careful not to take a penalty there. Very possible he could have picked up a warning. Of course, we won't see that from our end. With the DRS once again, though, looking to the inside where we saw him look last time. He cuts in nicely. Bois takes a 3-second time penalty at the front of the grid, and Alex and Zamis are still continuing to exchange here. Very tight racing action between these two. Meanwhile, Mikkel, while all of this has gone on, Raggy Jr. is currently in P5 hunting down these two drivers for that third position. He's on the 13-lap old mediums, and he's showing great traction through these S's right now, and King has just taken a 3-second time penalty after multiple warnings. So very interesting to see how penalties will play out here at the end of this one.
Yeah, probably Zamis and Alex was fighting was the last thing that they needed. You know, all that fighting has allowed Raggy Jr. on those fresher and softer compound tire on those mediums, close right up to the back of him, and dare I say, this will be quite an easy move for the Renault. He makes his way down to turn 1. Will it be the last late break as he breaks a lot later than Zamis? Has a slight lockup, pushes the Alfa Romeo a bit wide. Doesn't look like there's any damage, and so the Renault is now up into 4th and now chasing down that Toro Rosso.
Zamis now running in 5th position. Now he's looking... I think Zamis at this point in the race needs to just defend his current position. 3 laps to go, lap 34, 35 through into the final lap, 36. He has 3.5 seconds to work with King on the rear of him at the moment. King on those 10-lap old softs. He is going to start to feel the wear there. It looks like we've had an issue. Yoda with some kind of disconnect. Currently running in 7th. Hopefully he's able to get that back under control, as BTFU running behind him will be looking to capitalize on that disconnect. Very unfortunate for the McLaren driver, as Raggy is looking to make a move on Alex, perhaps, down through into turn 1. Coming out of the final turn now. He is going to have DRS on the Toro Rosso, and I'm sure that difference in tire life going to make a massive difference in pace here down this straight.
Yeah, another one who's been managing their tires really well is Bois. He's on 26 lap old mediums. Not hards, but mediums. And he is still going as they head into the penultimate lap of this race.
Raggy getting that move done easily on Alex there. Massive drop of pace from Alex. As you can see, Raggy is just that much quicker. Of course, you can see it once he overtakes. He's got a little bit more clean air to work with, and he's pulling out a gap quite rapidly here. Zamis has dropped a second and a half to King inside of the last lap. So things are going to come down to the wire in penalties for the Racing Point versus the Alfa Romeo. Biting our nails here to see what happens there. Yoda has been passed effectively by BTFU as a result of that disconnect. Hopefully he's had an opportunity to get back into the race.
Bois starting the final lap of this race in the lead, currently with a 4.5 second advantage. Although he has a lot of penalties, so I don't know if he'll be able to stretch that gap out enough to win the race, but he's currently first on track.
I have to hand it to Zamis, you know, 31 laps on those hard compound tires, 32 when he crosses that checkered finish. And it's one thing to maintain those tires and go the distance, but to take as little penalties as he has as a result of those very, very degraded tires is a great feat in its own. Of course, the longer you go on tires, the more wear, and the more wear, the more of a chance you have to take penalties. And unfortunately, I do believe that is the issue that Bois has had at the front of the grid, pushing those mediums 27, 28 laps at the end of this one. Just great driving from everybody involved, really, who's been racing here in Mexico. It's been a very unique race, to say the least, Mikhail. Zamis currently only a second and a half ahead of King here, making his way through the S's. Is it going to be enough for him to secure that fifth position? Of course, penalties going to be coming down to the wire here, playing a massive role on everything. That's Bois there, taking the checkered flag here. Zamayo now will take the win as a result of time penalties. Raggy Jr. struggling through stadium section on the 16-lap-old mediums as he rounds the final turn.
And King has caught all the way back up to this Alfa Romeo. Wonder how things are going to shape up, and it looks like he's going to jump Zamis across the line on penalties. Now BTFU rounding the final corner to finish off his race. He'll come across the line in P7. And Henry, only a 10th behind him after the penalties. His teammate, Astrodite, crumbs across the line in 9th. And Custom might round off the top 10. But looks like there's a battle between for 11th place. Looks like Rackety might just get the better of Jean here as they cross the line now. And Rackety, off penalties, will get that final point.
Wow. Wow, absolutely fantastic stuff there for Rackety and John. Right at the end, Rackety getting that overtake done. Jumping out ahead of Custom after penalties, getting that final points position.
What a race.
What a race indeed, Mikhail. As we see Zamayo, who started 18th here, has had a fantastic performance. You can see him there from 18th to 1st. He wins it here in Mexico. Bois with a fantastic P2 from 3rd. Raggy and him flipped positions, as you see there. Raggy started in 2nd here. Alex in 4th from 5th. King rounds off the top 5, coming from 7th. Zamis with a superb drive on those hard compound tires, going pretty well the entire race on those, will come home in 6th. BTF in 7th. Henry in 8th. Astrodite in 9th. It's an 8-9 for Williams. Rackety will close out the points for Ferrari. Very good performance from him. He started in 11th, and after a fantastic and extremely dynamic race, will come home in 10th. Custom in 11th, not quite able to get it done there. He did cross the line as the last points finisher, but as a result of penalties, things dropped him back a position. Jean in 12th, Yoda in 13th, Jasko 14th, Shenjay, after an extremely unfortunate race dealing with connection issues, Codemasters issues, he will unfortunately not finish this race. Fubar, Skybits, Icy, Lutra, Monkey S, also unable to finish here, and I do believe Jasko was another DNF as well. So all of them unfortunately becoming statistics here. I'm going to go down the race director for the sake of any reports that we may see.
Yeah, a lot of penalties in both divisions, but that's just kind of what happens at Mexico. As that will be the end of round 16 in Mexico City. Be sure to join us next week for the final round in Suzuka. It'll be the Japanese GP, round number 17, to close out season 2 of MRL.
Oh yeah, and lots of fun action in Suzuka, I'm sure, is what we can expect. It's such a unique circuit, lovely circuit, legendary. circuit, Mikau, and I've seen some races on Suzuka over the past few weeks as a lot of leagues now coming down to the final wire of their seasons. There's been a lot of wheel-to-wheel, fast-paced action happening on the Suzuka circuit, so I'm hoping all of that super fun stuff we've been seeing translates on over to our league. That was an absolutely fantastic Mexican Grand Prix. Very unfortunate to see all of the glitches that we did, but of course, next week, Suzuka here Thursday for Tier 2. It'll be 3 o'clock Central Daylight Time for those of you in North America. And of course, it's going to be, what is that, 9 o'clock, excuse me, British summertime for those of you who are more accustomed to following along with the British time zone. And thank you to Mr. BTFU for a gifted sub in the channel, to Mr. Luktra. Very nice of you, sir. And that is going to wrap us up. But before we go, I just want to take 1 minute to mention, if you are just joining us, make sure you smash that follow button. Check out our YouTube channel. We have a lot of great content. We put all of our race replays up on YouTube. We also have all of our race highlights there on YouTube. And check us out on Twitter. And if you're looking to join a fun racing community, the Misfits Discord community is where the fun is. Make sure you check out our Discord, where we run MRL and lots of great stuff. And I try not to ramble on too much, but the one last thing I want to take a mention to say is June 27th, DMR versus MRL. We're giving away F1 2020 Michael Schumacher edition. Check it out. June 27th, 2 o'clock Central Daylight Time, 8 o'clock BST. It's a 10 versus 10 league versus league matchup. Going to be a lot of fun. We're going to be commentating it right here on the Misfits Racing League Twitch channel. But that's it for me. As always, my name's Strifia. Mikal, any last words?
No, I think you covered all bases there. Just be sure to tune in for the final round. Should be a good one.
All right, guys. Everyone have a fantastic evening. We hope you enjoyed. Make sure if you did, you smash that follow button, and we will see you next week for the Japanese Grand Prix Round 17. It is, of course, Suzuka. Thanks for watching, guys. We hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, make sure you smash that like button to let us know, and of course, subscribe to the channel if you're interested in more great racing content. We are live on Twitch every week on twitch.tv Misfits Racing League. Hit us up in the description below for our Discord and Twitter links as well. Always looking to get connected on those, and if you're interested in joining the MRL, Discord is the place to be. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you on our next video.